Dragon Ball GT is a series that I have an interesting relationship with. There are these moments when I love it, and then there are times when I don't like it at all. I've talked about Dragon Ball GT multiple times on this channel, but I haven't given it a review from start to finish like I did with Dragon Ball Z. And with the number of comments I get from people who still seem to be a little confused on my stance on GT, this should clear all of that up. So join me as I go through iconic power-ups, unforgettable battles, and a whole lot of nostalgia that's packed into the interesting journey that is Dragon Ball GT. Now, as far as intros go, I don't think GT was bad at all. Following the end of Dragon Ball Z, it makes perfect sense for GT to open with Goku training Oob on the lookout. Now, the Pilaf gang's presence is interesting. By this point in the franchise, they pose no real threat to anyone who's relevant, and this is made clear by how they took their chance to sneak around the lookout. If you're familiar with Dragon Ball, then you know that almost every time we see the Pilaf gang, they're gonna be after the Dragon Balls. And this time it was no different, but the set of Dragon Balls they were going after was. The Black Star Dragon Balls were a set of orbs not created by Kami or Dende, but the nameless Namekian who ended up splitting into Piccolo and Kami. The most obvious question to ask is, what made them different from the Dragon Balls we all know and love? Well, three things really set them apart. The first is that the Black Star Dragon Balls can make any wish. You don't have to deal with Ultimate Shenron saying, "This wish is beyond my power." The second biggest difference is that the Black Star Dragon Balls don't turn to stone after being used, and instead of scattering all over the planet, they scatter all throughout space. And my favorite difference is that after you use these Dragon Balls, if you don't bring them back together on the original planet within 1 year, that planet goes boom. I like that. A lot of stuff happens in Dragon Ball without consequences, and these circumstances were a good way to ensure that these orbs weren't used recklessly, except they were. And not even on purpose. Pilaf wishes Goku was a kid again so he could teach him a lesson, and Ultimate Shenron overhears this and turns Goku into a kid. After learning about the consequences of using the Black Star Dragon Balls, Goku, Trunks, and Goten plan to take a trip into space to gather the Dragon Balls, but with some interference from a disgruntled Pan, Goten gets left behind and essentially replaced by his niece. I understand what GT was going for here. They were trying to follow a blueprint that the original Dragon Ball series laid. A young Goku traveling across the world with his friends in search of the Dragon Balls. And that nostalgia is something that GT relies heavily upon, but we'll get back to that later. Before I get back to GT's story, I just want to note that I wish we could have gotten more adult Goku in the beginning of this show. Goku's training with Oob was finally over, and for once in I don't know how long, I thought we'd finally get to see Goku with his family. When you think about it, that's something we've never really seen. As an adult, if Goku was ever around Gohan, it's because they were in danger. When he was around Goten and Chi-Chi, Gohan was in the realm of the Kais. He's rarely around Chi-Chi. I mean, the only time he had any one-on-one time with her on screen was when he was fighting for his life against the heart virus. Goku only had 3 occasions where he spent quality time with family. The 3 years before the androids arrived, the 10 days before the Cell games, and the 10 years after Boo's defeat. You know what all 3 of those instances have in common? They were either filler or off-screen. On first watch, I thought maybe GT would give us something different. Anyways, while in space, Trunks realizes that one of the jets for the ship just fell off. So they have to make an emergency landing on a planet called Emeka. Now, I actually like the beginning of this section. Goku, Pan, and Trunks make their way to the city, and the locals are quick to notice that something is a little different about them. But you gotta remember, the 3 of them are their own business. They're looking for parts for their ship, but in the meantime, they need a place to rest. And what happens next is something I thought I'd never see in a Dragon Ball series. Goku, Trunks, and Pan check into a hotel. Like, they go to the front desk, get the key, and go to the room, and the first thing Trunks does is flop down in the bed. And naturally, Pan wants to take a bath and Goku wants to eat, but they quickly realize that everything in this hotel room is unreasonably expensive, so they leave. In a franchise where almost everything is out of the ordinary, that is probably the most relatable and realistic thing that's ever happened in Dragon Ball. After they leave the hotel, the 3 Saiyans live on the streets of Emeka, and it's there where they realize how poor some of the Emekians are living. A little earlier, Trunks saw a television program where the people of Emeka were praising their leader, Don Ki. But he didn't seem like a benevolent leader, he seemed more tyrannical. That was already enough reason for the Saiyans to go against Don Ki, yet once he stole their ship, their meeting was all but assured. But before they made their way to Don Ki's palace, they met a robot in the desert. A robot that would go on to be one of the more important characters in Dragon Ball GT. In his introduction, Giru tried to eat the Dragon Radar and then escape. From the get-go, it was abundantly clear that Giru was no ordinary robot. He wasn't like the other robots on the mecha who simply carried out orders. And because he was different, Goku, Pan, and Trunks decide to keep him until they know what to do with him. As far as them retrieving their ship, it didn't go quite according to plan. They wanted to take it quietly, yet they got their ship and made the most noise possible. As expected, Don Key wasn't too fond of this, but the only way he could retaliate was by making them criminals, because by this point it was obvious that Don Key was pretty weak. The Saiyans went right to his palace and demanded that he make some changes. Of course, he said no. So they easily take on his royal guard, while Goku finally faced the one person on this planet who seemed strong. And personally, I was disappointed. Legic wasn't a real threat. After being pushed back for a little, Goku transforms into a Super Saiyan and beats Legic in 30 seconds.
Come on.
You can't keep hyping up this fighter who doesn't show his face and says the least amount of words possible just for him to lose to Goku's first transformation. But their time on the mecha was short. It was only 5 episodes. They got the parts for their ship, they helped the citizens of a mecha, and had a couple funny moments along the way. Nothing too memorable. It definitely doesn't compare to the starts of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, but it could have been worse. But unfortunately, it did get worse. The next planet they go to is called Monmasu, which is the Japanese pronunciation for mammoth, and that is fitting because everything on this planet is 10 times bigger than what it would be on Earth. And fun fact, this planet's inhabitants were designed by Akira Toriyama. That's probably the most interesting thing about this planet. The Saiyans have to deal with some bees, Goku makes his way out of a giant's mouth, they get the Dragon Ball, and they leave. The best aspect of this part of the show is that it was only 1 episode. The next planet the 3 Saiyans go to is Gelbo, and this is where I start getting sick of this arc. As far as inhabitants and general living conditions go, Gelbo was the closest planet to Earth that the 3 Saiyans explored. And in search of the Dragon Ball on Gelbo, they learned about these terrible earthquakes that happen frequently because of this monster named Zunama. Zunama demands a wife from the people of Gelbo, and if they don't comply, he'll keep causing these terrible earthquakes. Of course, Goku, Trunks, and Pan wouldn't just let the monster do what he wanted, so their way of interfering was dressing Trunks up as a woman to try and trick the monster. Very reminiscent of a time when Goku was dressed up like a girl to trick Oolong when he was posing as a monster. And back in Dragon Ball, it was kind of funny, but this time, not so much. And it wasn't just because Zunama wasn't as funny as Oolong, it was just the fact that the overall scenarios were completely different. When it happened to Goku, he and Bulma were searching for the Dragon Balls to make a small wish, something that wouldn't have an impact on other people. In GT, we have to watch Trunks make a fool of himself for 2 episodes when the entire Earth is on the line. At a certain point, the comedic tone of GT had to change. And as their time on Gelbo was coming to a close, you can feel the tone shifting. One of the citizens of Gelbo was actually in disguise and stole the Dragon Ball Pan had and flew off to another planet. This was the first time it felt like the team had their backs pushed against the wall. Anything that would draw out this journey of gathering the Dragon Balls heightened the chances that the Earth would explode. But this Lord Lu's section is arguably the worst animated Dragon Ball content in existence. First, they chase the Dragon Ball thief through a caterpillar-infested planet called Bihei, and after they deal with the overgrown caterpillars, we learn that the Dragon Ball thief has 2 brothers, and those brothers force the Saiyans from Earth to dance. They even forced Giru to dance, like there was music playing and everything. I thought things were gonna get serious after a Dragon Ball got stolen, but no. The Earth is in danger, so let's make the main cast dance. Listen, I know that that's just the Power Brothers way of fighting, because once they had you dancing, they could do anything they wanted to you. They had full control. But why not just make a genuinely strong character for Goku to fight? In a show that's only 64 episodes, we're 10 episodes deep, and Goku, the main character, hasn't been challenged once. After the Saiyans finally manage to beat the Power Brothers, Pan finds herself in a situation where she and Giru end up on planet Lud alone. And it is on this planet where we get a much better idea of how this whole Lud situation works. There's this guy, Cardinal Muchi, who leads the Lud cult. And I mean, I always thought it was interesting how a guy with the whip was kind of forcing these blind followers to believe in something. Kind of reminds me of, you know what, let's move on. It isn't too long before a sneaky Pan is found and turned into a doll by Lud. Now Goku and Trunks easily deal with Cardinal Muchi, then Cardinal Muchi's whip turned into a full-blown machine, and that's another problem the Saiyans have to deal with. I wouldn't be so against this, but again, the problem is that these aren't serious threats. I have to watch Goku and Trunks fight a whip while a creep is upstairs playing dollhouse with Pan, when I know all of this could have been stopped if just one of either Goku or Trunks transformed into a Super Saiyan. I might be able to understand the excuse that, oh man, they're trying to conserve energy, but not with the situation at hand, and definitely not with Super Saiyan. That's a form we know Goku mastered like 25 years ago. And even if Trunks didn't master it by the time GT started, he had been a Super Saiyan for 20 years too. There's no good reason that they're just messing around with full power Lud in their base forms. To justify the amount of time they were taking with these fights, the enemies should have been much, and I mean much stronger. The Black Star Dragon Ball arc is 16 of the most unproductive episodes for any group of Dragon Ball characters, especially considering what they had the ability to do. Nothing great happened in this arc. The writers tried to make it funny, but it became very apparent that they didn't have the skill to maintain a certain level of humor while also conveying that the characters were in dire straits. But I will give the Black Star Dragon Ball arc this. All of the encounters they had on each individual planet flowed nicely. Everything transitioned well. And this arc also introduced the next and best arc of GT in an effective way. But as an individual arc, I'm not a fan. But I can assure you that I'll have way more positive things to say in the next video. After the boring mini arc that was the Lord Luz section, GT really starts to pick it up as the story dives more into Dr. Mew. Dr. Mew was the scientist responsible for creating Cardinal Muchi Muchi, Leon, and Lord Lud. And a part of him creating those machines meant that he was the true mastermind behind the Lud cult and Doltaki. And speaking of Doltaki, after the destruction of Lud, he reports back to some planet to give Dr. Mew some good news, but is shocked when he is met with someone else, someone we as the audience hadn't seen yet. And with the slow turn around in the chair, sitting in the shadows with a deep voice, yeah, it was pretty clear from the jump that this character was someone of great importance. And then seeing how scared Doltaki was when this character turned around, you knew that whatever hierarchy existed with Dr. Mew, General Rildo was higher on that list. Rildo wastes no time in telling Doltaki that his services are no longer needed and quickly disposes of Doltaki. Now that was the main storyline. Somewhere far, far away, the Saiyans are flying through space looking for the next Dragon Ball, and it's at this point where Trunks brings up the idea that maybe they should take Pan back to Earth. Considering what had just taken place on planet Lud, Trunks basically stated that he'd feel more comfortable not having to worry about Pan and replacing her with Goten. And since the very first episode, Pan's story has been filled with everyone around her treating her like a little kid, and I mean she is. To the normal human, yeah, she's unbelievably strong, but her loved ones are some of the strongest beings in the universe, and with the fate of the Earth on the line, it may be beneficial to have stronger people. Pan doesn't take this suggestion too well and begins to cry. No matter what she does, it seems like she'll never be considered the right person for this mission. And I mean, you gotta understand both sides. On one hand, Trunks and Goku are just looking out for her, and on Pan's side, she just wants to prove her worth. But it is here where something interesting happens. Giru offers Pan a tissue to wipe her tears. Out of all of the Saiyans, Pan has treated Giru the worst by far, yet when she is crying, he is the only one by her side. And even in this moment, she is still hostile towards Giru. But before Pan can think about this situation any longer, Giru detects a Dragon Ball on a nearby planet, and as soon as they land, they encounter this giant scorpion-like creature, and although they get it to go away, it seems like that will be the biggest issue they face there, until they realize that they are stranded. Their encounter with the giant scorpion causes the ship's water supply to spill, and this is what brings about the Saiyans' true #1 obstacle on this planet. Rhodes was a desert planet, and along with being really dry and sandy, Rhodes was extremely hot. So as Trunks is attempting to fix the ship and Goku monitors the surrounding area, Pan is told to go inside the ship and play. And of course, she doesn't take this well. So she storms off and tries to find the Dragon Ball by herself to prove her worth. And when she leaves, Goku doesn't notice she's gone, nor Trunks. It is Giru that sees Pan fly off and is the first to go after her. Also, this is a good time to mention that I am a really big fan of GT's soundtrack, especially in an episode like this where there isn't too much dialogue because the plot is about a girl being stranded in the middle of nowhere. Overall, GT's soundtrack was very different from Dragon Ball Z's, and I think it's fitting because the tones of the two series are vastly different in my opinion. Getting back to the story, Pan is lost in the desert, no water, and has no energy to move. Another one of those giant scorpion centipedes is getting ready to attack her while she's completely defenseless, and she calls out for Goku and Trunks to save her, but guess who shows up instead? Giru. The robot Pan has been nothing but mean to this whole time. Not only does Giru rescue Pan and beat the monster, but he also finds the Dragon Ball on Rhodes. Yeah, Goku and Trunks end up fighting Pan and they find an oasis to refill their water supply, but the highlight of this episode was the relationship between these two. So the Saiyans leave Rhodes, and as they are flying in space to find the next Dragon Ball, Giru has this moment. He starts glowing and moving in ways he hasn't so far, and we learn that this is because the planet that the ship was currently passing happened to be where Giru was created. After learning of his desire to return home, Pan asks that Trunks turn around and go back,
and he reluctantly agrees. Little did they know that this planet would be the source of their greatest trouble since leaving Earth. Shortly after Pan's request, the group lands on the planet known as M2, and within minutes of their landing, Giru has another one of those moments where he's glitching, but this time Goku just punches him in the head and he stops. The group makes their way to the city, which looks beautiful in the distance, but after walking around, they realize that the city is barren. It appears to be futuristic, but the place had obviously been empty for a long time. Suddenly, these green machines that look a lot like Giru start appearing and refer to Ginyu by his model number instead of the names the Saiyans call him. Giru abruptly flies off and later regroups with the Saiyans, but ends up leading them into a trap with a group of machines known as the Sigma Force. The Sigma Force captures and knocks out Goku and Trunks, but leaves Pan because yet again, she isn't viewed to be as valuable as the other two. As the Sigma Force leaves with Giru, not only does Pan have to try to rescue Goku and Trunks, but she has to deal with the fact that she had just gotten betrayed by someone she was close to, an individual that Pan just opened up to. Their relationship was the only reason the Saiyans came to this planet in the first place. So as Pan sneaks into the base of General Rildo's operations, she sees a ceremony where Giru is being honored for his traitorous actions towards the Saiyans. Pan would love to take her anger out right at this moment, but she has more important tasks at hand. Now as Pan continues to follow these machines she's blending in with, they walk through a wall, which is something she cannot do. So instead of being captured for her cover being blown, she's actually deemed to be defective and thrown in a room with all of the other defective machines. In this room we get more history about Planet M2. It was once about as lively as a planet full of machines could be. They had feelings and weren't all about turning others into machines. And as compelling as this story was, Pan couldn't stay for too long because she has to save Goku and Trunks. Eventually, she finds them in a room where they are being studied like guinea pigs, and Goku basically breaks out on his own. And my only thing is, why didn't he do this earlier? Again, I understand it was harder for Goku to control his power in his younger body, but all it took was flaring up his power for a second and he broke free. What happens after this is basically Goku versus the Sigma Force. When they are separated, they are too weak to beat Goku. And when they fuse together into the Sigma Force cannon, they are too weak to beat Goku. But that's okay. Unlike the other planets the Saiyans have visited so far, this planet has a fighter who we can assure can provide some sort of real resistance for Goku. It didn't take long for Goku and Rildo to finally meet. And when I first watched this, I remember being so excited because Goku said Rildo was stronger than Buu, and I was like, finally, a real challenge. But before they get to fight, an irresponsible Pan causes Trunks to be turned into a metal slate. So not only do they have to beat General Rildo, but they also have to return Trunks to his normal state. So Pan takes care of that, and Goku fights Rildo. And in the beginning, Goku struggles. Rildo has unique abilities like being able to detach parts of his body and shooting them at Goku at high speeds. But as expected, Goku starts to overpower Rildo. What was unexpected was the return of the Sigma Force. They grab a hold of Goku, and as Rildo is preparing to take the final blow, Goku transforms into a Super Saiyan, reducing the Sigma Force to pieces and pushing General Rildo away. Goku and Rildo then agree that it's time to take things seriously, so Rildo uses the scrap pieces from the Sigma Force to form a stronger body fit for taking on a Super Saiyan. And I like something Rildo says here. He speaks about how a machine's energy is focused, and if there are multiple, they all work towards one goal. Whereas a person made of flesh and blood has thoughts and energy that is scattered, leaving room for unpredictability. And when their conflict was put into this context, it made the fight more interesting to me. We earlier learned that Dr. Mu is after the Dragon Balls for no other reason than growth. His order to capture Goku and Trunks was simply because he wanted their power for his own. It was highly unlikely that Dr. Mu would ever be able to create a machine that could be as strong as a Saiyan. Speaking of the strength of a Saiyan, Goku is overpowering Rildo again, and as he gets ready to fire a Kamehameha, Rildo transforms again. He covers himself in a liquid metal, and this is his strongest form. But it isn't just because of his physical strength. In this form, Rildo controls all of Planet M2. From the trees, the ground, the buildings, he can even displace his physical form to somewhere else on the planet. Goku had his hands full with this one, but Pan had her hands full too. As she searched for Trunks, she kept getting stopped by the purple Girus and was overwhelmed. She left the tower where she looked for Trunks and ended up back outside where she saw Goku playing a game of cat and mouse with Rildo. In his liquid metal form, Goku couldn't really fight Rildo hand to hand, or he'd likely get transformed into one of those metal slates Trunks was turned into. Pan enters the fight not knowing this, causing Goku to get caught off guard and turned into a metal slate along with Pan. Now, all three Saiyans are in Dr. Mu's lab, being prepared to be dissected, but unexpectedly, Giru saves the day. He rescues Goku and Pan, and before they can save Trunks, his metal slate is taken by Dr. Mu's forces, and during the Saiyans' attempt to get it back, Trunks' slate is shattered. They went through all of that work just to still lose their friend. But I think this is where the greatest twist of the series happens. After seeing his slate shattered, we then see a perfectly fine Trunks walking down some stairs. Trunks explains to Goku and Pan that all of their interactions on Planet M2 were planned by Trunks and Giru, and this is terrible for Dr. Mew. How could the brilliant scientist be bested like this again? First Lord Lude, now Planet M2. Dr. Mew's plans kept being foiled by the Saiyans, and in what seemed like a last-ditch effort to escape, Dr. Mew rushes towards this door, a door that Trunks seems to know something about. And against Dr. Mew's wishes, Trunks opens that door. And what lies ahead is not only the greatest threat in Dragon Ball GT, but greater than any threat in Dragon Ball Z as well. Trunks believed that he was saving the galaxy by opening this door. He couldn't have been more wrong. At the end of the last part, we left off with Trunks opening the door to Dr. Mew's secret room. In this room was a chamber, and inside this chamber was some kind of machine. You could see wires and his body did look metallic, but it was unlike any other Dr. Mew creation we had seen up until this point. As Dr. Mew walks towards the chamber, he almost speaks to the machine with reverence. He apologizes to the machine for allowing people to see the machine before its completion. We soon learn from Trunks that this machine's name is Baby, and that it could very well become stronger than the Saiyans under the right circumstances. Trunks really shines in this section because he knows the most about Baby. He knows that Baby's creation is totally different from any other machine on M2. He knew about Dr. Mew's plan to destroy all other machines on M2 after Baby's completion, and even foils Baby's completion by rerouting his life support to, watch this, the plumbing system. But in all seriousness, I really like Trunks' character here. He was a lot like his father, confidently talking down to the opponent and staying a couple steps ahead. But just like his father, he would end up speaking too soon. Baby started to move inside of his chamber, then he started to grow. His lens began to fill out, his eyes opened, and then his signature laugh would reverberate throughout the room, and there he was. Baby was unleashed. And his first order from Dr. Mew, kill the Saiyans. But fortunately, Baby was at his weakest point, so a group blast from Goku, Pan, and Trunks was enough to seemingly kill the machine. With no other options, Dr. Mew decides that it would be best to retreat. But before he leaves, a little piece of Baby enters Dr. Mew. And while he's in space, Baby bursts out of Dr. Mew and kills him. We learned that Dr. Mew's entire scheme was actually orchestrated by Baby. This taught us a couple things. 1, Baby is unbelievably intelligent. 2, Baby is ruthless. He killed his creator without a second thought. And 3, Baby is a parasite and can invade people's bodies without them knowing. But for the time being, he is away from the Saiyans and Giru, so it's back to the search for the Dragon Balls. Oh, I should also mention that the Saiyans killed General Rildo. The story didn't make a big deal out of it, so I won't either. While the group is flying through space, Giru detects that a Dragon Ball is dead ahead and it happens to be inside of a damaged ship floating through space. The group checks it out and obtains the Dragon Ball with ease, but they couldn't help but notice that the ship was completely wrecked from the inside and there wasn't anyone on board, except one person. A small boy who was unconscious and on the verge of dying. So the group makes their way to a planet called Pital, where the boy can get the medical attention he needs. But while the boy is laying in his hospital bed, he rises up and then has a smile on his face, and then an explosion comes from his room. It's clear what's going on here, and that was just a matter of time before Baby reveals himself. As a matter of fact, Baby almost possessed Pan's body when she wasn't paying attention. If it weren't for Goku and Trunks coincidentally walking over to where she was, Pan would have definitely been possessed. With Pan's body no longer being a viable option, Baby possesses a doctor's body in an attempt to get Trunks alone. Once they are isolated, Baby then explains to Trunks that he planted that Dragon Ball on that ship. He killed all of those people in a plan to lure the Saiyans there. That plan deviates from what Dr. Mew was going for. Baby seems more interested with beating the Saiyans more than the Dragon Balls, and he was going about it pretty well. He had Trunks in a vulnerable position until Goku and Pan showed up, and then it wasn't anything Baby could do. With his current level of strength, he can't take on the three at the same time, so he causes an explosion that creates an open wound on Trunks' arm, and that is all Baby needs to possess Trunks' body. But it doesn't go as planned for Baby. Like his father, Trunks falls back against the one who tried to control him. He doesn't give the same proud speech that his father gave, but both Trunks and Vegeta regain complete control over their bodies after a loud scream while flaring their power up. Realizing that he was still too weak, Baby retreats. But this was a warning for the Saiyans. Baby would only get stronger from this point on. And even though he still was a very formidable threat, the number one goal for the Saiyans is to find the Black Star Dragon Balls, and that's what the group continues to do. But Baby makes his way to Earth, and he's still body hopping. He's asking different people where he can find the Saiyans, and he leaves nothing but destruction if he doesn't get the answer he's looking for. So one of Earth's strongest fighters comes face to face with Baby and just so happens to know something about the Saiyans. But this fighter, as strong as he is, can't do anything to Baby. Luckily, Goten happened to be in the city because he was on a date, and at first, he was reluctant in fighting. But after he figured out that this mysterious character knew about the Saiyans, Goten took the encounter seriously. But in this encounter, we witnessed that Baby's powers have expanded. He could now possess more than one person at a time, and it wasn't long after this where Baby finally reveals himself, and man has he changed. He isn't purple anymore, he now has clothes, he's significantly taller, and is much, much more powerful. Powerful enough to feel confident in taking on Goten with his own body, but that confidence soon goes away because Baby resorts to hiding in the rubble and cutting Goten's arm. Like he did with Trunks, Baby takes that chance to possess him. A possessed Goten goes back to Capsule Corp looking for Vegeta because with Goten's knowledge, Baby knows that Vegeta is the one Saiyan that will give him the power necessary to take down Goku. But instead of finding Vegeta, he runs into Gohan, who can sense that something is off with his brother. So they duke it out like brothers do, and it ends with Baby body hopping from Goten to Gohan. Somewhere else on Earth, we get a cool little scene with Vegeta the dad, taking his daughter shopping and keeping boys away from his daughter. And on the way back to Capsule Corp, a possessed Gohan stops Vegeta and Bulla, and we finally get some more info about Baby. He is a Tuffle, and from what was known up to this point, they seem like a race of people that the Saiyans wronged in the past. In their one-on-one matchup, Vegeta gets the best of a Baby-possessed Gohan, but Baby shows just how far he's come as Goten arrives on the battlefield and fights Vegeta with Gohan. Baby was now at the point where he could possess 2 Super Saiyans, but even they weren't enough for Vegeta once he unleashed his full power. But when he did, that is when Baby saw his opportunity. Baby had body hopped multiple times by this point, but this was the first time where he entered someone's body and changed their physical appearance. Vegeta's worst nightmare came true as his hair turned white and lines began to cover his face. In the last video, I said it was highly unlikely that Dr. Mew would ever be able to create a machine that could be as strong as a Saiyan. And he didn't, but this was pretty close. This character from this moment on would be known as Baby Vegeta, and his plan was revealed. He was going to turn all of Earth's citizens into Tuffles. I guess the silver lining in all of this was that Goku, Trunks, and Pan returned to Earth with all 7 Black Star Dragon Balls. They did it. They hand the Dragon Balls over to Dende and leave the lookout having no clue what state the Earth was in, including the fact that they had just given the Dragon Balls to a Dende who was possessed by Baby. When Goku and Pan make it back to Mount Paozu, they meet a Chi-Chi and Videl who won't say anything and have the most emotionless expressions on their faces. Quite the opposite of a wife and mother who hadn't seen their family in nearly a year. Then back at Capsule Corp, Trunks is confronted by Baby Vegeta, and during this confrontation, Giru is killed. And this is another one of GT's biggest problems. I don't think the show gives the right amount of time for the death of important characters to impact the viewer the way it should. Giru shouldn't just die and then in 10 seconds we're at a different scene. Yes, Pan does come and see him later and has an emotional moment, but that doesn't change the actual scene where he died. Even with a character like General Rildo, who was a big antagonist for the group. After not seeing him for 2 or 3 episodes, Goku, Trunks, and Pan blast him away as they're leaving Planet M2. That's just something the writers could have done better at, but I don't want to act like it's all bad because this is the best arc of GT, and a big reason for that is the inclusion of the cast outside of Goku and Pan. Gohan, Goten, Trunks, Bulla, Boo, Mr. Satan, even Bulma through Baby's body hopping and just his overall journey to gaining more power, it gave every character an important role in the story, and I think that is something that has historically been a problem in Dragon Ball. Getting back to the story, Goku and Pan are in the house confused as to why Chi-Chi and Videl are so cold. Then they are met by Gohan and Goten, who literally blow the roof off the house. They injure Pan, and an enraged Goku in his base form beats both Gohan and Goten as Super Saiyans. But that's when Baby shows up, and Goku gets his first look at Baby Vegeta. He can sense just how strong he is, so he determines that in order to fight him, he must go all out. He had to use Super Saiyan 3, and this was terrible, I can't lie. I know Goku couldn't fight at his maximum because of his body, but the whole scene wasn't drawn or animated very well. Soon after Goku drops from Super Saiyan 3, he finds himself in a pile of rocks defenseless. Baby could have just blasted Goku away with his current power, but that wouldn't be very Dragon Ball of him. So he absorbs energy from all of the half Saiyans, and this yellow vest thing with crazy shoulder pads forms with extra lines appearing on his face and chest. Then Baby takes it one step further and gets energy from everyone on Earth. Baby grows taller, his hair gets longer, his skin changes color, his eyes change, he's wearing an entirely new outfit. I understand that this is still Vegeta's body, but this to me was a Baby-possessed Vegeta. This is something completely different, and his power was completely different too. Baby builds what looks like an evil spirit bomb and forces it down upon a defenseless Goku. With Goku out of the way, Baby summons Ultimate Shenron and wishes for the old planet Vegeta to be put in Earth's orbit, and that will serve as the Tuffle's new homeworld. Soon after that wish, Baby began transporting all of the humans to the new planet Vegeta. With his wish, Baby negated nearly a year's worth of work by Goku, Trunks, and Pan. You almost wish that they made Goku an adult if the Dragon Balls were going to be scattered across the galaxy again anyway. That way, Goku wouldn't have to be saved by Kibito Kai and accidentally dropped into a board game dimension. Sugoroku space is one of the very few places where Kai doesn't have any authority, so Goku has to win the game there in order to make it to the land of the Kais, which he does. Elder Kai suggests that Goku grind coffee beans as a source of training, which is weird, but this is the same guy who marched around Gohan and read magazines, which gave Gohan his biggest power boost to date. Back on Earth, Oob makes his first appearance in nearly 30 episodes, saving Pan from being killed by Gohan and then taking on Baby. Considering that Goku didn't stand a chance against Baby, it wasn't a surprise when Oob lost against Baby. But during their fight, Boo tells Hercule goodbye and that he'll never forget him. He goes on to save Oob from a deadly attack by Baby and then becoming one with Oob, creating Majub. A warrior definitely more suited for fighting Baby, but still no match. On the sacred world of the Kais, Goku learns that his tail is starting to grow back, but because of the current situation, he can't wait for it to grow back on his own. So guess what they do? They take a giant pair of pliers and try to pull his tail out. At first, he's tied to a rock where the Kais pull, then Elder Kai is tied to a rock while Goku tries to fly away, and that is what causes Goku's tail to grow back to its full length. An excited Goku rushes back to Earth with Kibito Kai, only to see Majub was being eaten by Baby, so Goku doesn't waste any time, transforming into a Super Saiyan 3 and attacking Baby with everything he has. And unlike their fight on Earth, Goku can maintain the form. The only problem is that Goku is still too weak, so Goku is knocked to the ground and realizes that this is as far as he can go. Goku looks up at the Earth and starts to think to himself, thinking about the road he's traveled so far and how it could possibly come to an end like this. And not just the journey for the Black Star Dragon Balls, but the very beginning. Thinking of those who have been at his side before he ever knew what a Saiyan was. He thought of his family who loved him through all of his crazy decisions and were a source of joy in his worst moments. He just thought about the Earth, the only planet he ever called home, and it hurt him deeply that he couldn't protect it. But Goku's heart started beating faster. Then boom. Goku sits up and he's going crazy. The surrounding landscape is destroyed, there's lightning, and Goku's screams quickly turn into the roar of a raging ape. Goku's face begins to change, his body is growing, and before you know it, he's a great ape. But this time was unlike any other great ape transformation. Instead of the normal brown hair, Goku becomes a golden great ape. And like any other time he's done this, Goku loses control and starts to destroy everything around him. That is, until Pan appears before him and cries out for her grandpa to remember who he is. And as a tear falls from Pan's face, Goku catches it and remembers everything. Yet again, Pan proves her worth in this show despite not having the highest power level, which is something I appreciate. Goku takes one last look at the Earth and it's almost as if he's reaching out to it to try to get back home. The platform Goku is standing on breaks and Pan worries about her grandfather. But when the smoke clears, we see what is easily the best aspect of Dragon Ball Z, Super Saiyan 4. A form unlike any of the three before it, and that adds to its appeal. When Goku takes on Baby now, he beats him with ease. With this new power and his adult body, Baby is no match. And in an attempt to try and close the new gap between the two, Baby has Bulma transform him into a great ape as well. This transformation did close the gap between the two, and at one point, they knocked each other out. It is here where Kibito Kai uses the sacred water from the lookout to free the half Saiyans from Baby's control. And their job was to pour their power into Goku so he could fight again at his full power. A ritual very similar to what Goku did to become a Super Saiyan God. Bulma uses the Blood Wave machine to restore Baby's strength, and he made his way back to Goku before he could absorb the energy he needed. But luck was on the Saiyan side, because Oob just so happened to still be alive inside of Baby, and it was causing Baby extreme pain, giving more time for Goku to absorb energy. But Baby spat out Oob, and fired a Gallic gun at the Saiyans before Goku said he was finished. And when the dust settled, Gohan, Trunks, and Goten laid face down in their base forms, with Goku nowhere to be found. And just before Baby ends them, Goku gets his attention as he flew above the attack holding his granddaughter, and all of his wounds were healed. Their plan worked. A glowing red Goku now had the energy to beat Baby in his strongest form. Goku fires a Kamehameha that sends Great Ape Baby flying, and as he lies on the ground without his tail, his body begins to shrink. Baby is forced to leave Vegeta's body and scurries to a ship in an attempt to escape Earth, but Goku fires off a Kamehameha, sending Baby off into the sun. Baby was the living embodiment of the Saiyan sins of the past, so it's quite poetic that Goku has to use that same destructive power to beat Baby, an enemy who ended up adopting the same form as the barbarians he hated. After the Saiyans won, they freed the people of Earth from Baby's control and everything turned out fine. Except, the Earth was still going to explode soon. It seems like because Baby made a wish within a year since the last one, the timer for the Earth never reset. And with less than 2 weeks from Earth's destruction, there isn't enough time to go search for the Dragon Balls again. With the new planet Vegeta along with Bulma's ship, the Z-Fighters make a plan to transport everyone. And the plan was going well. Every ship on Earth assisted in the transport, and Goku used his Super Saiyan 4 to use instant transmission to move loads of people at once. But right before the planet is set to explode, there is one boy left on Earth that Goku goes to save. The boy's name is Danny. And when Goku finds him, he also finds Piccolo. But this was almost too good to be true. When Goku was getting ready to use instant transmission for the final time, he ran out of energy. He reverted to his base form, and with no energy left, he can't use instant transmission. That's when Piccolo gives Goku enough energy for one more instant transmission, and now everyone is saved. The boy hugs his parents, and as Goku smiles watching a family be reunited, he realizes Piccolo didn't make the trip with him. Piccolo decides to stay and die with the Earth. Without him, the Black Star Dragon Balls would turn to stone. This death was done right. Piccolo has one last conversation with Gohan, and when Piccolo tells him that he's going to die, Gohan responds by saying, "I don't want you to die." A selfish yet very understandable reaction, but Piccolo responds by saying, "Sometimes we have to look beyond what we want to do what's best." And Gohan couldn't say anything. He knew Piccolo was right. Piccolo tells Gohan how proud of him he is, that this decision was a product of the growth that resulted from knowing Gohan since he was a small child. And what Gohan did in Piccolo's dying moment was something he hadn't done since he was a child. Gohan cried. The Baby Saga ends very different than how it started. On Planet M2, Goku, Pain, and Trunks were alone in space fighting machines to save their planet. And by the end, Goku, his family, and all of his friends are at Capsule Corporation having a party. I hate to say that GT goes downhill from here, but if you've watched it before, then you know I'm right. I just don't think any other saga in this show had a better villain, a better story, and more character involvement than this one. These are the characters who I think are important in the Black Star Dragon Ball saga, and these are the characters who are important in the Baby saga. It's night and day.
Coming off of a grand space adventure, Dragon Ball GT's story comes back to Earth, and that is where the remainder of the series takes place. Now, I kinda like the beginning of this arc. Everybody was just doing their own thing. Trunks was running Capsule Corporation, Goten was out on a date with Felice, and the 31st World Tournament was happening. Pain and Goku enter and dominate their respective matches. Vegeta tries to enter so he can fight Goku, but he's too late and ends up punching a wall in frustration. Majube competes in the tournament disguised as Papaya Man, and Mr. Satan sits in his room and prepares to fight in his last tournament because he announced that he is going to retire. Now, Mr. Satan plans to pass his title off to Pain, and that makes sense. Most of the characters that are actually stronger than Mr. Satan have no interest in being the champion and the spotlight that comes along with it, except for one. We were first introduced to Oob at a world tournament. He was there to make the people of his village proud, and I don't think those feelings ever wavered because in this episode, Majube makes his way to the championship round and intended on beating Mr. Satan. When the fight starts, Majube is pummeling Mr. Satan, but before he can do too much damage, the boo inside of him makes Majube stop, and that allows Mr. Satan to knock Majube out of the ring. Mr. Satan announces that he is no longer retiring, and as the sun sets, the main cast leaves the tournament, and on the way home, they run into a Vegeta who is demanding a fight with Goku. They stand across from each other on a bridge, getting ready to give us a matchup that has been legendary in the 2 previous times before this, but Goku's stomach starts to growl and asks Vegeta if they could fight after he got a chance to eat. Now, although nothing major happened in this episode, I like this episode. Aside from not being the most beautifully drawn, I think this episode was a breath of fresh air. We just came off a very intense journey, and seeing an episode where the cast is just relaxing and laughing with each other is refreshing because you know at some point the story will heat up again. Unfortunately, in this case, the quality of the laid-back episode is much higher than the high-stakes and action-packed story that follows. While people on Earth are enjoying a time of peace, we get a look at Dr. Mew wandering down in hell and thinking about how it all went wrong. And as he is wandering, he meets an old enemy of the Z-Fighters, Dr. Gero, a character that is similar to Dr. Mew in more than just how they look. They both are scientific geniuses, they both created machines that turned against them, resulting in their demise, but what drew them close together was their hatred towards Goku. And together, they made a plan that would put Goku away for good. On Earth, Goku was enjoying a dinner with his family and friends, but they were waiting on Trunks because he was late, and when he gets there, he's seriously hurt. He falls down to the ground at Goku's door, but not before saying it was Android 17 who was responsible. And as the group tries to figure out what is wrong with Trunks, they realize that there's a giant hole in the sky. Now this was interesting. Nothing quite like this had ever happened in Dragon Ball, so there was a genuine mystery surrounding this. But then we see Android 17 enshrouded in a different kind of aura than we saw in Dragon Ball Z. Then we get a look down into hell where another Android 17 is enshrouded in the same kind of aura. Soon after this, both androids power up at the same time and their power meets in that hole in the sky. It was at this point where we learned that the hole in the sky is a link between the Earth and hell. This was just phase 1 of Dr. Gero and Dr. Mew's plan. And after phase 1 of their plan being successful, Dr. Gero reminisces about how Android 17 killed him before and how this new android they are trying to create will be controllable. Back on Earth, Trunks explains what happened. The original Android 17 blocked Trunks' car and caused a crash and then blasted Trunks. I guess in trying to protect his driver, Trunks doesn't really fight this Android 17 with his full strength. So although he lost the fight, he did pick up some valuable information. And that was how the doctors were going to flood the Earth with all of Goku's dead enemies. And the only way to stop it is for Goku to go to hell alone. That is such a wild sentence. Of course, Goku takes on the challenge and flies straight into the hole in the sky. The other Z fighters take on the evil in the streets. I like how these scenes show just how far the main cast has come. These individuals that they were once in life or death battles with were all beaten with ease now. And all of the Saiyans did this in their base forms. They really like their base forms. When Goku meets Dr. Mew and Gero down in hell, they literally just leave him. Now they're on Earth with both Android 17s without Goku to stop them. Do I think Goku could have done something to stop them from leaving? Yes. But I guess you can just chalk it up to Goku being unfamiliar with his situation. But his next situation was one he was very familiar with. As Goku screams in frustration about being stuck in hell, he hears a couple of voices making fun of him. When he turns around, he sees Frieza and Cell, his two biggest enemies that he couldn't bring to his side. Although this entire situation was unexpected for Goku, he's eager to fight these two. Goku takes on both at the same time in his base form, and after a certain point, he just starts playing around. He surfs on a disc attack while deflecting a Kamehameha from Cell that destroys the top half of his body and then cutting Frieza in half. Cool little callbacks to things he actually did in Dragon Ball Z. But in this realm, they can't be killed. They're already dead. So they continue to attack Goku, and at one point, Cell even absorbs Goku. Kinda. Goku made his way out of Cell's tail, but Frieza and Cell's next attack proved to be troublesome for Goku. Frieza and Cell trap Goku in beams of light and then send him down to the depths of hell, where he finds a lady that tries to cook him, and when that doesn't work, she tries to freeze him. But he thaws out quickly because those methods aren't meant for live bodies. So when Frieza and Cell think they'll finish Goku off, he thaws out and then freezes them, which works much better on those who are actually dead. On Earth, things were going well at first. Vegeta kills Nappa, again, Goten and Trunks kill Android 19, and Gohan has a really boring fight with General Rildo that's eventually resolved by Majul. But the most interesting storyline on Earth was the original Android 17 trying to convince Android 18 to join him, and at first, it seemed like it was working. Android 18's eyes start to glow red and she begins to walk towards Android 17. But Krillin isn't just gonna watch this happen. At this point, or really at any point in his life, could he physically stop an android, but his words resonate not just with Android 18, but Android 17 as well. He reminds them of how they even got to this point, that through disobeying Dr. Gero were they able to be free and live their own lives. Elsewhere in the city, Vegeta is fighting the other Android 17
in his base form
and is losing. This show's favorite thing to do is have fighters remain in their base form even when they're losing. Anyway, back to Krillin. So Krillin tries to talk 17 out of his actions, reminding him of how he really feels about Gero, but that doesn't work. 17 eventually snaps back to his evil senses and kills Krillin with the blast through the chest. Another bad death in my opinion, because the episode didn't give the time needed for the death of one of the most foundational characters in the franchise. After seeing her husband die in front of her, Android 18 snaps on 17, which doesn't work. They have this lackluster beam clash which results in Android 18 seemingly dying next to Krillin. The original 17 goes to the other 17 that was fighting Vegeta, and Vegeta starts to get worried. But then Oob and the Half Saiyans show up, and at this point, I'd say the fight will be even. I'd actually say the Z fighters had the upper hand, especially if any of them decided to transform. But then the 17 start to glow. They begin to move towards each other, and after their combined glow dies down, we get a good look at this new android. He's taller, has longer hair, his clothes are ripped, and his first move is destroying the surrounding area with just a look. Super 17 proves to be too much for the Saiyans and Majub, but my biggest problem is, why did they wait for the 17s to fuse to use Super Saiyan? Vegeta struggled with just one 17. Gohan struggled with Rildo. These are enemies that are trying to end life on Earth as they knew it. Why are you not going all out? I mean, it wasn't even a surprise to me that 4 Super Saiyans and Majub couldn't beat Super 17. Vegeta even debuts a new move, a move I really like, and it doesn't do anything. Like the final flash didn't kill Cell, but at least we got to see its destructive potential. We didn't get to see anything with the final shine attack. This was an issue I had with GT as a whole. There were characters who I knew were capable of much more, but for some reason they just didn't show it. I feel like I'm forgetting about somebody. Oh my god, Goku is still down in hell. To make a long story short, Piccolo forces his way down to hell to help open up a new hole for Goku to get back to Earth. Piccolo and Dende trying to channel their power like the 17s did, but they struggle for a while. And while Goku is waiting, we see this random scene of a Dragon Ball on Earth with the crack in it. Weird, never seen that before, but now is not the time to worry about that. Piccolo and Dende finally open this hole for Goku, and now that he's back on Earth, he rushes to the Z-Fighter's aid and arrives just in time to save Vegeta from being killed by Super 17. Goku prepares to take on Super 17. Finally, it felt like forever to get here, even though it was only 3 episodes. Unlike the rest of his friends, Goku transforms right from the start, and Super Saiyan Goku vs Super 17 isn't a horrible fight, it's just bland more than anything. But in this fight, you notice that with every long distance attack Goku uses, Super 17 just stands and faces them head on without taking any damage. Now if you've watched Dragon Ball Z, you would have realized these hands and what they can do. I guess Goku just forgot. After firing a full power Kamehameha at point blank range and not working, Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan 4. And one thing I never thought about when originally watching this series was that Super 17 may not have been very strong physically, he just kept absorbing energy. Like even as a Super Saiyan 4, Goku doesn't realize that ki attacks just won't work. This was stupid at this point. Like come on, Goku had been firing ki attacks the whole time, then fires a 10 times Kamehameha and again, it doesn't work. This blast gave Super 17 a huge boost. Shocker. Like as a fighting genius, when do you switch up the strategy? I mean at this point it was too late. Super 17 had absorbed too much energy and now, whatever gap was between Goku and Super 17 before was now gone. Now away from the fight, Chi-Chi, Videl, Bulma, and Bulla make their way towards Goku, and on the way, Bulma sees a city literally underwater and an intense thunderstorm in the distance. Now Goku and Super 17 were strong, and I'm sure they had some kind of effect on the stability of Earth, but this wasn't something we'd ever seen before. But it wasn't an immediate worry. Because Goku couldn't physically beat Super 17, he planned to self-destruct with Super 17. He grabs a hold of Super 17 and 17 can't shake loose. After Goku builds the energy to carry out his last resort, he releases the energy. There's a huge explosion. It destroyed everything in the surrounding area. But when we see Goku as a kid lying down, this was all the confirmation we needed to know that his efforts didn't work. Super 17 rises out of the water and informs Goku that the shield he created kept both of them alive. Goku, completely out of energy, is at 17's mercy as he prepares a blast that will surely kill him. But then 18 stands in front of Goku. 18 talks to Super 17 about how she admired the man he used to be, the one who overcame Jiro's programming and lived his own life. She mourns the loss of that 17. She then threatens 17 with the fact that she has a bomb in her chest, which was a lie. She got it wished away a long time ago, but Super 17 didn't know that. So it only added to the reasons that Super 17 would hesitate in firing a blast at Goku and 18. As 18 kept talking to 17 about how disappointed she was in him being controlled, Dr. Mew interrupts and tells 17 that she is trying to manipulate him. 17 shoots the blast that was meant for Goku at Dr. Mew, which kills him. While Goku is out of energy watching 18 take on Super 17, Goku realizes how he can beat 17. 17 can only power up after absorbing energy while staying in one pose, and Goku realizes that when he's like that, he can be physically hit. Goku then rushes 17 and uses the Super Dragon Fist that puts a gaping hole in 17's torso, and with him being severely damaged, Goku fires a Kamehameha which kills 17. He did this all in his base form. Where did Goku get that energy from? I don't know. I'm tired of trying to figure that out with this series. After the fight, Bulma finds Goku and lets him know that the Hell and Earth connection caused the Earth to be disturbed in a weird way. So the Saiyans gather the Dragon Balls to wish for the Earth to be made normal again and to wish back Krillin, but they realize that all of the Dragon Balls were cracked. Against better judgment, they summon Shenron anyway, but the first time it doesn't work. The second time they try, the sky turns red, the earth starts shaking, and black smoke starts coming out of the Dragon Balls. This isn't the Shenron we're used to. He's blue, and as far as Eternal Dragons go, he definitely doesn't look like a good one. But we'll learn more about him next time. So at the end of the last part, we were getting into the cracked Dragon Balls and the Dark Dragon that accompanied them. King Kai warns Goku to beware of this cigar-smoking dragon, and right after this warning, the dragon inhales all of the Dragon Balls, and then they disperse around the world in the mouths of other smaller smoky dragons. And then the big dark dragon just leaves. The dragon didn't grant any wishes or give any explanation for what it just did, it just left. And I like this because it leaves not only the Z fighters in a state of confusion, but King Kai as well. Only the Supreme Kai know about what just took place. Well, the Dragon Balls were made to grant wishes, we all know that. But they are only supposed to grant wishes every so often. Every time a wish is granted, the Dragon Balls store negative energy and then they scatter across the planet to let the negative energy die down. They were originally only supposed to be used every couple centuries, but the Z Fighters' repeated use of the Dragon Balls caused them to eventually crack from storing too much negative energy, which resulted in a dragon of pure evil being released. And the person to blame for this is Bulma, because without the Dragon Radar, the Dragon Balls would never be able to be found as quickly as they have. But like he always does, Goku assumes responsibility for other people's problems and gets ready to take on 7 of the strongest and most unique enemies he's ever faced. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about the idea of another Dragon Ball related problem. Individually, I like the Blue Dragon Balls and the Black Star Dragon Balls, but their stories were too close. I like the idea of super powerful Dragon Balls that come with a great cost, and I also like the idea of the normal Dragon Balls being corrupted with negative energy after repeated use. But we literally just watched the story where the Black Star Dragon Balls scattered, were found, and the Earth still exploded. Now there's this. As Goku flies to take on the new threat, he realizes that he can't find these monsters without the Dragon Radar, and as he turns around to go get it, he is met by Pan. And once again, she forces herself into harm's way by essentially forcing Goku to bring her along. And the first dragon they face is the 2-star dragon. The green dragon is terrorizing a small village until Goku and Pan show up, and at first, this dragon doesn't seem like too much of a problem. Pan is knocking him around with ease, they think the dragon can transform but it can't, but Goku notices something is off. Pan pummels the dragon multiple times, but it isn't getting tired or weakening at all. And at a certain point, the dragon is able to not only defend, but counterattack against Pan. That's when we figure out what Hei's Shenron's true power is. The dragon can poison his surroundings, and that pollution affects other living things around him. So Hei's Shenron isn't actually getting stronger, Goku and Pan are getting weaker. So much so that Goku couldn't even become a Super Saiyan. Hei's Shenron reveals to Goku that the wish responsible for its creation was the one that Goku made as a child to wish back Bora. But Hei's has done enough talking and he throws Goku and Pan into a poisonous river, assuming that it would kill them. But to Goku and Pan's surprise, the bottom of the lake was fresh water because of a spring. So Goku fires a ki blast at the spring so he and Pan can fly back up to the surface and finish off the dragon. When they do, the Dragon Ball from Hei's head loses its cracks and regains its original orange color. Goku and Pan go off to find the next Dragon Ball, and it's in a city that's completely deserted, except for this older couple. They tell the Saiyans that this weird goo has been going around absorbing electricity from everything, and not long after the Saiyans arrive, the dragon reveals itself. Its name is Rage Shenron, and it claims to be the strongest out of all of the Shadow Dragons. His first attack on the Saiyans was sending his slime to electrocute the Saiyans, and when that doesn't work, he uses his slime to grow much bigger than Goku and Pan. Rage Shenron informs the Saiyans that he was created from the wish that brought Goku back to life when Vegeta and Nappa invaded Earth. In his giant form, Rage Shenron is much more of a threat, constantly electrocuting Pan and Goku. Rage Shenron grew in size before, so Goku decided to follow suit and he became a Super Saiyan 4 in an attempt to end the dragon in one blast. But instead of taking damage from the blast, Rage bounces it back at Goku and Pan, causing Goku to revert back to his base form. Rage Shenron then decides to start absorbing energy from the Earth's planetary electricity reserves, and it begins to grow a lot, and its slime is starting to cover everything. Rage traps the Saiyans in his slime and electrocutes them, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. But in a great stroke of luck, it starts to rain, and Rage Shenron's slime will short circuit if it's kept out in the rain for too long. So small little explosions start happening at different parts of his slime because he's too big to protect himself all at once, and eventually he explodes. After the explosion dies down, Goku and Pan find Rage Shenron lying down defenseless, and as Pan goes over to get the Dragon Ball, Rage Shenron almost traps Pan in his slime but is quickly killed by Goku when the Dragon Ball is retrieved. 2 Shadow Dragons down, 5 to go. The story then takes us to a fishing port where a bunch of men are going crazy about what seems like thousands of fish falling from the sky. The men credit a princess for the fish that they are receiving, and we later meet this princess, Princess Oto, who just so happens to be the shadow dragon the Saiyans were looking for. This dragon was known as Oceanus Shinron, commander of the water and the air. And I just want to say I love how the shadow dragons all represent different elements. It was teased when the Dragon Balls were scattered around the earth after the smoking Shinron left, but seeing them in action was pretty cool. I mean, I'll always give credit to Dragon Ball GT for its unique ideas, they were just poorly executed. Oceanus Shinron informs Goku that she was created from the wish Oolong made for a girl's underwear. That would be a wish that would come back to haunt them. Goku and Pan attack Oceanus Shinron and their attacks do nothing. The dragon then takes on a Kamehameha from Goku and deflects it with ease. And even though Goku is confused, he charges back at Oceanus, and instead of getting knocked back, his clothes are torn off by a gust of wind. And as embarrassing of a moment as this was for Goku, he learned how Oceanus was deflecting his attacks. It's because she was spinning around really fast. So after Goku gets a new set of clothes, he starts to spin like Oceanus and this happens. Not sure how this is possible, but we're here. Goku and Oceanus Shinron then literally crash into each other for a while until the dragon traps Goku in a whirlwind, forcing him through a bunch of rocks. Now, it would have taken Goku a while to die from this attack, but the problem is, the air is moving so fast, Goku can't get out of the way. Now it's all up to Pan. She puts her hands together and starts to say the iconic word, and Goku can't do anything but smile. Pan fires off her first Kamehameha, which frees Goku, and that gives Goku the opportunity to break free and fire off a Kamehameha as well. The Saiyans retrieve the 6-star ball and save the fishing port. 3 down, 4 to go. And at this point, I wasn't really disappointed by this arc, but I just wanted to see Goku actually fight for once. Unfortunately, we have to wait a little longer. The next dragon Goku and Pan face is Naturon Shinron, and out of all of the dragons so far, this was by far my least favorite. We are introduced to this giant mole digging tunnels underground and tearing down a city in the process. So Goku and Pan try to minimize the damage as much as they can, and the dragon notices that someone is disturbing his work. So he finally comes to face the Saiyans, and he's disappointing to say the least. He provides no real resistance in the fight and even ends up hurting himself with his own attacks. So when he's on the ground and goes back into the Dragon Ball, Pan has a valid reason for rushing over to pick it up. But as she rotates the Dragon Ball, she sees that it's still cracked. A bright light then engulfs Pan, and when that light dies down, we see Naturon Shinron, but he looks a little different. He actually looks stronger. Naturon informs Goku that one of his abilities is to absorb other beings to increase his own power, and that's what he did to Pan. So Goku now has to find a way to beat Naturon without killing his granddaughter. In the beginning of his fight with this new Naturon Shinron, Goku was hesitant to make any moves, but Pan tells Goku that it's okay and she wants Goku to go all out. So Goku transforms back into a Super Saiyan 4 and he's beating the brakes off Naturon, but he's still holding back some. So Naturon tells Goku that either he needs to kill him or stay out of the way, because Goku wasn't going to get anything accomplished fighting like this. So Goku charges up a 10 times Kamehameha and fires it at Naturon Shinron, and we see a shot of Pan crying, saying goodbye to her grandfather. As Goku mourns the loss of his granddaughter, Naturon Shinron stands up, heavily damaged but very much alive. From this point on, Naturon Shinron beats Goku to the point where he can't move, and in an act of kindness, Naturon grants Goku one last wish, and that was to see his granddaughter one last time. Pan emerges from Naturon's stomach and pleads for her grandfather to fight back, but to no avail. So Naturon pulls Pan back in, and right before she's completely gone, Goku reaches out, grabs, and then pulls Pan out of Naturon's stomach, showing that he had just a little more power than he was letting on. Naturon then reverts back to his original state, which is a small brown pig, and in a last-ditch effort to escape Goku, Naturon tries to absorb a bird that's flying by, but he's nowhere quick enough. Goku unloads a fury of punches before firing a Kamehameha that kills Naturon Shinron. Pan is safe, the city is safe, and they got the Dragon Ball. But I still want to see Goku throw some hands. Fortunately, the last 3 Shadow Dragons are real combat threats and turn out to be some of the most exciting fights in Dragon Ball GT. The next Dragon Ball they search for is in another empty city, and as they are searching around, Pan looks up at the sun and tells Goku that it just grew. Soon after, the dragon jumps down from the sky on fire and introduces himself as Nova Shinron, the 4-star ball. And just based on looks, this dragon seems much stronger and a lot more intimidating than the likes of Rage or Naturon. But just like every other time, Pan rushes in without a care in the world. She's overconfident from her previous experiences with the Shadow Dragons, therefore she's dealt with in one blow. But Nova has no interest in battling Pan. He's there for a good fight, and that's with Goku. In the earlier parts of their fight, Nova's ability to raise his body temperature proves to be troublesome for Goku. Nova then flies up in the sky and almost looks as if he's a sun, literally shooting fire down on Goku. So for this portion of their fight, a base Goku just has to run away. They eventually end up in this hotel, and every room Goku goes to, Nova's there waiting for him ready to attack. Away from the fight, Giru is looking after Pan until the surrounding area becomes covered in ice. And the being responsible was what looked like a blue Nova Shinron, Ice Shinron. No need to explain what his powers were. But this situation is now a little more concerning because the Saiyans never had to deal with two Shadow Dragons at the same time. Goku was already playing hide and seek with one of them, and that was before Nova Shinron revealed his true form. With Nova powering up, it only made sense for Goku to do the same, and as a Super Saiyan 4, Goku and Nova's fight is a lot closer. It seems like Goku is much better at dealing with Nova's heat. Goku is stronger than Nova at this point, but Nova is faster, so Goku has to use more unorthodox methods to catch Nova. And what that looked like was Goku using a mirror to confuse Nova and then appearing behind him. At this point, Nova accepts his fate and acknowledges that he's lost. And that highlights one trait about Nova that separates him from the other Shadow Dragons. He had a genuine love for combat along with a sense of morality and honor when fighting. It's no coincidence that this is the 4-star ball either. When they first met, Nova knocked out Pan but did no further damage because that's not in his character. So Goku repays Nova for that noble act and lets him live. So when they go back outside to finish their fight, right before Goku fires off a Kamehameha, his hand is frozen. And there's that dragon from before, and it seems like he broke out of his shell too. Nova tells Goku that Ice Shinron is his twin brother, and Ice has Pan's bag full of Dragon Balls, which prompts Goku to fly towards her to make sure that she's okay. But unlike Nova, Ice tries to attack Goku while he isn't paying attention, showing that the twin brothers don't share the same code of ethics. So Nova stops his brother, telling him that Goku is his fight, but Ice doesn't listen and proceeds to fight Goku anyway. He freezes both of Goku's arms, but Goku is so much stronger than Ice that he can beat him with just his legs. So guess what Ice does? He freezes Goku's legs, and then his whole body. Ice then tells Nova that he must kill Goku, but I don't know what he was expecting. Instead of killing Goku, Nova just melted the ice Goku was encased in. And from the Inferno, Goku tells Ice to be ready because he'll beat him in 10 seconds. Now it takes him a little bit longer than that because Ice pulls a couple of dirty tricks, including blinding Goku. But in the end, Goku kills Ice Shinron with a hole in the torso, and then the most over-the-top Dragon Fist of all time. In the aftermath, Nova gives Goku the antidote for his blindness and agrees to fight again when they can fight fairly. But something in the distance knocks Nova over and knocks the antidote out of Goku's hand. And in the distance is the final Shadow Dragon, Sin Shinron, the 1-star Dragon Ball, and this is a great design for the final villain. He's obviously gonna be the strongest Shadow Dragon, but he looks the part as well. He's huge, he's got the spikes going, and I have a feeling he isn't honorable like Nova. He has no problem taking on Goku while he's blind, and even though he's much weaker because of it, Goku still ends up landing a direct hit on the Shadow Dragon, but what the dragon does next is much different than any of the other dragons before him. Sin Shinron eats the other 6 Dragon Balls and become what we all know to be Omega Shinron. The recovered Dragon Balls are now visible on the dragon's chest and they are blue and cracked again. In this state, Omega has the abilities of all of the other dragons we saw before him, and on top of already being extremely powerful, Super Saiyan Goku couldn't win. But that's when Vegeta shows up with the plan. He artificially transforms himself into a Great Ape, and just like Goku, he becomes a Golden Great Ape and then a Super Saiyan 4. And if Goku's form wasn't enough, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta's appearance is more than enough proof to why this is the best design for a Saiyan transformation in the franchise. Now you have 2 of the strongest fighters in the universe with their bodies at their peak taking on this Shadow Dragon, and it's still not enough. So the Saiyans resort to fusing, becoming Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. Gogeta is so far above Omega Shinron that the dragon can't even perceive his attacks. But just like every other strong fusion, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta ran out of time. So this next section is one we've seen before. Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta taking on Omega will not result in a win for the Saiyans, so they try to fuse again. They successfully stall Omega for enough time to try the fusion dance again, and when they finally do it, Goku becomes a kid again. Now Goku remains his optimistic self going forward, but this was the second time in GT where I really felt that there was no way for Goku to win. This was a hopeless situation. So when Omega Shinron fires a Spirit Bomb-like attack at Goku, Goku of course tries to push it back, but he fails. And for all we knew at this point, Goku was dead. So with the hero out of the way, Omega starts to flood the earth with negative energy. The sky is black, there are earthquakes, the tides are rising, unreal thunderstorms, like this was it. Vegeta, being the last line of defense, tells Trunks to take everyone and get off of the planet. But he and the other half Saiyans don't listen, and they go to help Vegeta take on Omega Shenron. Now, if 2 Super Saiyan 4s couldn't get it done, it was obvious that 4 Super Saiyans were going to lose, but they had no other option. At this point, it wasn't about winning the fight, it was about not giving up. And in this attack, Vegeta takes one of the most gruesome blows in Dragon Ball. I really don't understand how he was able to use his arms after that. As Omega prepares to kill Vegeta, Vegeta laughs, and before he passes out, he tells Omega Shenron that it isn't over just yet. From the ground, Goku rises, with his hands in the air and building a spirit bomb. I've said it before, the spirit bomb is one of the best ways to end a Dragon Ball arc. And as the spirit bomb grows, it clears the dark clouds from the sky and the thunderstorms stop. And all this is happening while the series theme plays in the background. This was a very well executed moment in what I think is a show full of horrible execution. So Goku asks King Kai to help him gather energy throughout the universe, and those boring episodes during the Black Star Dragon Ball saga hold value here, because we see some of those same characters helping to save the Earth. Goku fires a completed spirit bomb at Omega, it kills Omega, and then the Shenron we're all accustomed to makes an appearance without being summoned. Goku makes one final wish to bring back all of the humans that have died since the Super 17 incident, and then Shenron says it's time for him to go, and Goku goes with him. I've talked about it on the channel before, but GT's ending is remarkably cathartic. It was one of the very few times I watched Dragon Ball and didn't care about what made sense. Did Goku die? Why didn't attacks affect him when he was building the spirit bomb? What about that aura around him? Where did he and Shenron go? Who knows? I didn't care when I first watched the series, and I don't care now. Goku going to see all of his friends before he leaves serves as more than just the ending to GT, but a storybook ending to a legendary franchise, because for a long time, that's exactly what it was. GT's ending hits so hard, not because of Dragon Ball GT, but because of how good Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are. But those are just my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours. So let me know down in the comments how you feel about not just the Shadow Dragon saga, but Dragon Ball GT as a whole. And if you enjoyed this video or any of the other ones you've seen on my channel, please leave a like and subscribe. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, and everyone counts. Again, this is BigTune, and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.